Okay, in this interior real estate photography tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to light complex situations. In this instance, we had a stairwell that needed to be lit. We had a room with a beam going across, and it was tucked in around a corner, so the ambient layer just didn't give us enough light, and doing a single flash pop or even running back and forth wasn't quite enough. We had to light that stairwell also, and that's why I stress making sure that you get a system down wherever it's, whether it's an extra light stand that you have a flash near the camera, or doing what I do. I have that Godox X1T trigger that sits on top of my hot shoe, and then another hot shoe that sits on the flash sits on top of that, and it isn't very heavy at all. You just got, a lot of people don't like to stack things on top of their hot shoe, and I understand that, but in this situation, it's light setup, so it's not a big deal. So I have that as my setup, and then I use the 8200 to move around in the room, lighting up multiple spots in the room and multiple rooms within that image. So let me take you into Lightroom right now, and I'm going to show you how we created that image. Okay, so here we are in Lightroom, and here's that tricky situation where we have a beam right here, and we have to avoid casting shadows by, if we were to just do a single flash pop, we would be getting shadows on the other side of that beam, and we're also not able to light the stairwell. So this is what we did. Here is my ambient layer, and all I did was my ambient single image bump here, which I pretty much use for the flash layer too. And see, notice I'm pulling that histogram over to the right. That's where you want it. I don't care if the floor is blown out. I don't care if the windows are blown out. We're going to fix all that with that flash image. So the next image that I did, and actually let me star these. There's another tip. You can star them by hitting 1 on your keyboard. If you hit 2, it puts 2 stars. If you hit 3, it puts 3 stars, and so on. But I'm just going to hit 1 to keep it simple. Here, let's move on to the next layer, or the next image. Here's where I had that flash on top of the camera, and then my 8200, I did a flash pop here to light this over here. And again, that ambient layer, let's just slide that over more, because you want to watch what is the point of using this image, and it is to get the correct exposure and white balance, minus all that color casting that comes with the ambient layer, is what we're using this image for this side of the room. And then we moved over, and I hid around the corner right here to light this. Let's just check that. And again, we got to bring up the exposure on this one, because we're targeting this side of the room now. And then the one, let me mark this one, and we got to mark this one, and this is our stairwell shot. Let me just reset. Let's bump. Okay, and then pull that. You got to watch that, because this is just for the stairwell, so if I go too far, then it starts to get too blown out up there. So we're going to leave it at about right there. Now we'll hit 1 again just to make things simple. Now I'm holding down Command on my computer, and I'm going to click this one, and click this one, right click, edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. Alright, so once you have all your layers loaded into Photoshop, I'm going to suggest that we click on the first one, make sure the top one is highlighted, come down to the very last one, and hold Shift, and then click on the last one. That'll highlight all of them, and then come up here to Edit, Auto Align Layers, make sure Auto is selected, and hit OK. Normally I don't do this step if it's just 1 or 2 images, because most of the time they're almost always perfect, and that just saves me a step. But you can see right here the border that it did shift it a little, which means one of them was out of alignment. And then just click anywhere in there and to unclick all of them. Now come up to the top layer, make sure that layer is selected, and what we're going to do is we're just going to turn off that ambient layer for now. We don't need it. So let's also turn off this layer, because we're basically going to start working backwards. And this is our, if we shut this one off, this is our stairwell shot and this layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the second to last layer, click on the mask, and then Command I to invert it, and then make sure your selector is white on top here, your brush is selected, flow at 100, or flow at 5%, opacity at 100, and I'm going to increase that. And now all we're going to do is paint in some of that flash image coming from the other one. So see, we don't have to worry. And we got this shadow here, but remember we can get rid of a lot of that. So if I start coming over here, that's good. I'm just painting back in that flash image. I want to tone down this on the stairs a little bit. That looks pretty good to me. So now we're going to turn this layer on, and this is the one that we're going to be working with. Let's light this more. So I'm just going to create a layer mask here, Command I, and we can paint back in right here just a little bit. Probably could have got away with not using this layer. Because see, if I start painting over here, I'm going to reveal myself. It's the one underneath, just so you can see what we're doing. So that looks pretty even to me. So we're going to click on this, the ambient layer. And again, layer mask, Command I to invert it. And now we can paint back in, getting rid of these shadows. And notice how orange that is. So here's one method to fixing the color cast from your ambient layer, is you can select your ambient layer, not the layer mask, but the actual ambient layer. Come up here next to the where it says normal by default. We're going to scroll all the way down and click on luminosity, and that tends to fix it. A lot of times luminosity is going to give you if I zoom in here, you can see how it kind of leaves like a yellow mark there. I'll show you how to fix that in a second. Let's back it out there, and I'm going to continue to paint in some ambient, make it look as natural as possible. We had that glare on this post right here, and again, see how it leaves like a burn mark? That's why most of the time I do not like using luminosity, especially when there's hardwood in the scenes. It tends to just create in the shadows the yellowish. But we're going to be able to pull that out. We'll use a saturation, a layer. I'll show you that. So we're just painting back in some ambient here, getting some natural glare on the floor. Right there. That looks pretty good to me. So what you can do if you're finicky and you want to get rid of that, which in this case I probably would because it is pretty obvious. We're going to click on this layer right here. And we're going to Command J to duplicate it, and we got to get rid of that layer mask for that top layer now, and we're going to change this layer to normal, and then layer mask, Command I to invert it, and we're just going to paint in right here, blend that in, and then one more step we're going to do is we're going to click here, click on this one where it's a circle, half and half. We're going to come down here and click on Hue Saturation. We're going to take our little picker tool here, come over here. Let's see what this color is. It tells us there's yellow in that. So we're just going to pull that yellow all the way out. Well, not all the way out, but about right there. And you're saying, well, that desaturated the entire image. Well, that's why we're going to take this layer mask, make sure it's selected. Command I to invert it. Make sure white's selected. We got our paintbrush tool. Bring this down. And we're just going to start painting back in that desaturated layer to get rid of that yellow color cast. And now once you get proficient in this, you'll be able to work really quickly. And things like this only take a matter of 30 seconds to a minute at the most. And it's not every room either, usually. So there we go. Let's toggle that on and off. You can see how it got rid of that orange color cast from that beam. All right, let's click, right-click, flatten image. And we're going to Command S to save it. Okay, and once it's saved, it's going to bring it back over to Lightroom in a TIFF file right here, and I'm just going to give it my interior final little bump there. And again, sometimes it overexposes depending on the image that I'm working with. I'm going to hold down Option and slide my black slider to see if I can get some more contrast. And there we go. Look at that. Very clean, very nice, well lit, evenly lit image. And so there you go. That's how you would light up multiple flash pops by using layer masks and making sure that you're having intention when you're lighting a room. So if you're lighting one side of it with your flash pop, you're lighting over here to light over here. You're running up a stairwell, making sure you're not in the shot and popping that flash above the stairwell to light the stairwell, and run back and look at your images. Does it look like it's evenly lit? Be thinking of how you're going to blend these images together later, and that's going to help you when you're on site. So please, let's start a comment. Let's start a conversation. Leave me a comment below if you are confused about anything that I just showed you. I'm going to answer every single comment. I have the app on my phone, so as soon as you send me a comment, I'm going to know it. And if I'm not busy at the time, I'm going to respond back to you right away. So I want to be able to help you. I know some of this stuff I didn't show you, like my keyboard shortcuts or anything like that. And I want to make this specific to beginners, because once you learn this stuff, chances are you're not going to be coming back to doing tutorials, you know. So I want this to be I want to be as much of a help as I can be. And so the only way to know that is for you to leave me a comment below if you have any comments or questions or concerns about any of the things I just showed you. And again, I appreciate you for watching. Stick around for the next tutorial. We got a lot more coming up. So we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.